Hello! So, Allstate is right around the corner, so I figured I would jump on and create a couple videos for the junior level woodwinds. I'm going to start with flute. First thing, I'm going to play through it, then I'm going to go through and kind of break it down, kind of last minute practicing tips. At this point, I like to assume that you already kind of have the notes already down, and that what we're going to do together is I'm going to start tweaking some little things, adding some extra musicality, and give you some extra bonus points, little brownie points that you can kind of snag for the judges. Try to get all 30 points at the South Carolina Region Band Audition, which is here in just a couple days on January 11th. So let's just dive right in. Couple things I'd like to talk about in this solo. First being, beginning starts at a piano dynamic, but you're already kind of low in the horn, so you really don't have to be concerned about starting at a true piano. Let the horn do what it wants to do in the low register to get that very precise, clean articulation right at the beginning. If you need to take a breath there, take a breath there. But if you can't hold it all the way through to the end of that line to do a full, complete 4-bar phrase, that would be preferred. Another thing I'd like to talk about in that phrase, you're talking about the third bar. You have this syncopated rhythm, and you have this rising line, G, A, B flat over those 2 bars. Make that come out. Don't let the repeating lower note stick out any more than it needs to. Let that ascending line kind of creep out. Put it all together, you have this crescendo and this leading line all the way through. Kind of linger a little on that high D. Give it a little bit of stretch, There's no ritardando written there, but that doesn't mean you can't kind of finagle one just a little bit, kind of show some control over the phrase. Going on to the next one, if you are using a thumb B flat instead of 1-1 B flat, be sure to remember that you can't use the thumb B flat on a high F sharp. You have to choreograph kind of the thumb motion there. So I like to use B flat thumb. In this line, I will slide it off when I do the descending quarter notes, D, E natural, F sharp. So then I put it back on when I go up to the ascending G because that doesn't require a thumb. Then I drop back down to high D and I can add that thumb back in and continue on the rest of the phrase. As far as I remember, you can actually use the B flat in every single bar in this piece except for bar 6. So I would go ahead and use B flat thumb. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the flute has 3 B flats. The first 2 that are very common, obviously everyone's favorite, 1-1 B flat, but there's also this top thumb key back here that we can also use as a B flat. And that just kind of facilitates some better technique. All right, so second line. Crescendoing through the range helps a lot with this dynamically. You don't have to do any extra push or use any extra air. You want to get all 4 bars. So in that, just make sure you're sustaining all the way through. Let the range take care of the dynamic. Don't waste any air. When it comes to those last kind of few notes of the ritardando, think about stretching those 16ths. Don't let them get too slow. Don't let them get too fast. I kind of think about like running into a pool. You go down each step. Each step you fall down farther into the pool, the more the water pushes back. It's kind of gradual, but there's a lot of weight and push into them. And I kind of like to linger a little bit more on the F sharp just to get a little bit more drama. Just a little bit of drama. All right, going on to allegretto, staccatos versus non-staccato notes. It's crucial in this part of the piece. You want to exaggerate the shortness of your staccato notes, and then do the exact opposite and exaggerate the longness of notes that don't have the staccato marking on them. You want that contrast in here, and that's what judges are listening for at the region band audition. Most common places where this happens is at the ends of slurs. You don't want to chop the end of those slurs. You want to sustain all the way through and really get a full value, maybe even a little more, just to exaggerate that. Here's a great example. When I'm playing those notes, I'm not like it. I'm not trying to swallow those notes. I'm letting them push. I'm pushing them forward. I'm releasing them out. And letting the accent of the next note kind of help me with the 8th note rest, right? I'm allowing that contrast to happen between that resonant release into the accent note. Right? I'm connecting them. I'm not letting that 8th rest break my phrase, continuing through, and then the accent's really what's articulating the style of there. Going on, then we have a staccato note over a slurred release, and we want to exaggerate that one too. Playing those two lines together, again, I'm exaggerating the staccatos and I'm exaggerating the releases, making them a little bit longer than probably necessary, but again, I want to show that contrast, I want to show that control. All the way through. Going on, again, the range is going to help the high D speak. I don't have to push too much for the high D at the fortissimo volume just because it's already higher than the notes prior. It's going to speak louder. It's going to come through. Here's a great example of the staccatos versus non-staccato notes. We have slur, then articulated staccatos, and the last note does not have an articulation, or a staccato rather. It does not have a staccato. The last note does not have a staccato. I repeat, the last note does not have a staccato. So you really need to push all the way through and sustain and linger just a little bit on the last notes of those two bars. Kind of sounds like this. I'm kind of pushing away, just pushing away ever so slightly what I don't want to hear. They're great articulations, they're great staccatos, but they're not what the piece is asking for. One thing I have failed to mention about this allegretto part of the piece is that I feel it as more of a waltz, kind of dance-like, with stronger emphasis on beat 1. So anytime you have a beat 1 or a notation where it shows you that beat 1 shouldn't be the strongest, those need to be exaggerated. So again, if the music does it straightforward, exaggerate beat 1. If it shows an articulation where beat 2 or the and of 2 need to be articulated, for example, there was an 8th note, 8th rest, and then a half note on beat 2 and 3, that's an example of where beat 2 is probably the stronger beat. Or we have an articulation where you have a tongue, tongue slur, tongue, 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 or something like that. Those are examples of where we need to exaggerate or change the simple feeling of the waltz. So going on to measure 21, I have this release on beat 1, emphasis on beat 2, which then draws me into beat 1 again in the next bar, and I kind of get back into this dance feeling before I finish it out. Going on, same idea, emphasizing beat 1. Again, drawing the half note into the next beat, always having a place to go, always lift and then fall, lift and fall. You never want to jolt down too suddenly. You always want to lift and fall. perfect example of where we're going to push that emphasis onto the and of one instead of on beat two in that articulation. We have that both in bar 32 and in 34. Again, I'm going to exaggerate those, maybe even lean a little bit. I'd hate to say accent, but maybe even accent just a little bit. Again, the decrescendo at the end kind of takes care of itself because the descending line from high to low. Give it a little bit of care in doing that decrescendo, but you don't have to focus too hard on it. Because it is only a mezzo forte to mezzo piano dynamic change. Now, you do want to exaggerate it, but not so much so that you kind of get too soft, or you don't support the ending notes as much as before. If you're one of the brave souls who are going to try the B ending and start learning it for all state auditions, just keep in mind that it is very similar to the A ending as far as style, and a lot of the things I've already talked about will transfer right over. Things to note is it does have a forte dynamic marked. Another thing is a decrescendo under an ascending line, something that's kind of difficult to do. Make sure you keep the air supported all the way through. Still emphasizing beat one unless the bars kind of tell you otherwise. Remember, that's that slur on the end of one or a half note on beat two leading into the next bar. Simple notes, nothing really weird, kind of little syncopation going on at the very last line, but nothing unmanageable. So, the B ending. I hope you found this video insightful and beneficial to you in your final Region Band preparations. I know it's right around the corner. I know you've been working hard. Keep pushing through. Keep practicing. There's a couple more days of break left, and then the final week before. Keep working. It'll be fine. Breathe, and good luck.